Welcome to the Heat Treat Podcast, sponsored by Matza, Creo, and Super Systems.
Welcome to the Heat Treat Podcast. Today's guest is Philip Reese, Managing Director of Reese, a third-generation family-owned German heat treating company founded in 1948 with over 300 employees, 4 facilities across Germany, and some of the largest furnaces in Europe. Reese stands out globally in its technical capabilities. Philip brings a fresh vision to the industry with background in aerospace, engineering, and international business experience. Philip, how you doing?
Very fine, and thank you for hosting and inviting me to this podcast.
You
Happy
know,
to be
I
here.
know it's late for you. I'm in Mexico. It's early in the morning. But,
Not too late for me. It's fine. 6 p.m. So we have plenty of time. The sun is still shining outside.
Thanks for joining us in the podcast. Strange times in the world. The world is getting to a new world order. So having a European guest in the podcast can bring us much more vision on the macroeconomics, and especially a good friend of ours, Gordon Montgomery, was the one that coordinated the podcast. He did mention that your facility is very worth seeing and talking about. But before we start getting very technical, just want to know a little bit about your background. So, what was it like growing up in a heat treating family business?
So I think first of all, it's important to mention that it's a heat treatment family, yes, but I think it's the same as if your parents did some other business. Yeah? The business is always the top priority, and this is something that me and my brother already learned as children. Yeah, that first of all we care about the company. If the company is doing fine, we are doing fine. If there is big trouble in the company, then maybe we don't go to vacation now. Yeah, and this is something that no one would ever complain about in a family like ours. So I think heat treatment is something that I learned from very early on. We live very close to the to our Brackenheim plant in southern Germany, and already as a child after school, we had to go to the heat treatment facility. On weekends, we went with my dad to check for the furnaces. Everything is going fine. So we were very early in touch with heat treatment and understood what it's used for. And I think it's also a privilege to learn so early about something, because like that, even if I now only have around 10 years of business experience, we still know how it looked like 20 or 25 years ago.
You spoke very beautiful about your family business, and I appreciate that very much. I have the same background, family business on heat treating, and it's a very beautiful thing to grow up in such an industry and mature with it, and to become the leader of the industry. But we will come across the company. But I want to go a little bit about your background. So growing up on a family business, industrial business, heat treating, but then I saw a resume and you decided your path in aerospace engineering, right? So why aerospace? Uh, Coming from heat treat to aerospace, and how it led you of the most to become the
Mhm.
leader of your company.
So originally, I wanted to become a pilot. That was
Oh,
one of my childhood dreams, and so later on, I decided that basically being a pilot is just riding a bus through the air. And
pretty fast, by the
but
way.
I still wanted to keep a little bit of that fascination, and I decided to major in engineering. So aerospace engineering was a good choice for me. And basically, so the content of this education is not so different to classical mechanical engineering, but you're getting everything explained um, with the focus on airplanes or spacecraft, and that was very interesting for me. But when I finished my studies, um, we were in a situation where it was obvious that the family also and the business needs me because, like many family-run businesses, at some point the owner have to care about their successors. And because my dad is now at an age and was back then, and my uncle, who was already a little bit older than my dad, they decided they need to look for one now. And so it was time to make a decision. And then I also decided to go to the heat treatment. And it is a decision that I never regretted because after a couple of years in this heat treatment industry, I really like it a lot. It's a small industry. You get to know a lot of very nice people who have common interest, and you also get to know a lot of different other industry branches because the customer base is so widespread.
It is. Now let's talk about the company. Can you give us a little bit of the background of the company? I know that the highlight is that Reese operates pit carburizing furnaces, very big furnaces. They might be the biggest pit carburizers in Europe, but I do believe that there's more than that. It's a very state-of-the-art company. So can you elaborate on Reese?
So yeah, of course. I mean, we have 4 different locations, and each location kind of specializes in some sort of heat treatment procedure. Of course, we are widely known for these large components, but it's only one location that operates like this. For example, in southern Germany, we are much more focusing on tool industry, tool manufacturing, vacuum hardening, which comes with it. And in East Germany, we have kind of boutique shops, I would call it like this, with focus on smaller parts, but to a highly to a very high level of quality. And each of those locations operated on their own, and it's been like that for many years now. Also because so the generation before me, we had 3 CEOs, and each one of them had their location where they could kind of pursue what they like. So we saw very different approaches within the company, but I think that's also a great chance that we used. So for each of those niches we work in, we are now in a very good technical position. Yeah, we are state of the art when it comes to the engineering, and I think this is something that's really important for us, and is also a good position to sell. Yeah, when it comes to Rese, we can treat, for example, very small parts, only weighing just several grams, but we can also treat the biggest parts possible. And that means that we can offer the customer a wide variety of procedures and basically have a solution for whatever heat treatment question, for whatever heat treatment product they need. And with 4 locations, like I said, each having their specialties.
So all 4 locations are in Germany, right?
All 4 locations are in Germany, yes.
Okay, but as you mentioned, they're quite different on their capabilities.
Yes.
We were talking about the big pit carburizing furnace, which I would like to touch base because it's a very unique process. Very seldom heat treaters treat massive parts. So can we go a little deeper into that because I do believe that it's very valuable for the audience. But what types of parts are typically heat treated on these massive furnaces? And what are the main technical challenges when carburizing such large components? And of course, you have to manage distortion, case depth, uniformity, and what's the not the secret sauce, of course that's yours, but what's the considerations you have to take that are different from the standard commercial parts heat treating in facilities.
Yeah, so first of all, you asked what kind of parts we are treating. So I think you can probably divide that into 3 different groups, which are suitable and manageable in such a furnace. The first group is just very large gears, seems kind of obvious, but also shafts and bearings for example, marine industry or wind power industry, large steel works. This is kind of the customer base asking in this first group of parts. But then there's a second group of parts, and this is medium-sized parts, but that are being manufactured in a very high quantity. So it can be very profitable if you have a certain lot size of medium-sized parts to also run this in such a big pit furnace, as long as the quality requirements are met, which will later lead us to the challenges in running and operating such a furnace.
So,
But
so if I may stop there, so you can run very large gears on that one, but as well as smaller, well, medium-sized parts, the load can be very cost effective because the utilization of the furnace, it's
yes,
pretty optimal.
yeah, it is. I mean, you can load up to 50, 60 tons in the furnace.
Right.
So if you have this in just one process, it can be very profitable in terms of pricing, but also in delivery time, so performance. Yeah. So the third group of parts I want to mention is also medium-sized parts, but single parts that are very difficult due to the requirements in distortion, for example, and therefore we require that they are being heat treated with a specially designed casting or support construction that is then larger than the gear or the part itself and must be loaded in such a big furnace. And we sometimes see that we have, for example, a gear with very thin walls or a bearing with very thin walls that needs to be loaded on a specially designed casting, and that will then be treated in this big furnace as well. Yeah, because it's so difficult. If you don't have this support structure, you would probably have a result which is unacceptable in terms of distortion, and therefore it otherwise can't be treated.
I'm envisioning a very challenging shape and geometry,
Yeah,
and then you
exactly.
have to have like a fixture or a tooling holding the part. Will that be
Yeah,
accurate?
exactly. And so we design that, and we have a steel construction, and it goes into the furnace together. Sometimes we keep it if we know that the customer will produce the part again, so we have it on stock afterwards. Sometimes it's also a lost construction, which could be made from a less expensive material, for example, which of course will then have distortion itself and can't be used again.
And I would love to ask about the quench tank. How many oil liters are there?
Also, it varies a little bit, but at least 300,000 liters, and we can fill it up to around 400,000 liters. And yeah, it's quite a big tank.
It is a lot of oil.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is a lot
so
of oil,
a
and
lot
I
of it.
always you have to care for this oil very carefully, because if this oil goes bad for some
Oh
whatever
yeah,
reason, this will be
yeah.
very expensive to replace.
It is.
Uh,
It is. So, well, but you have a very f- big and flexible furnace that I do believe that you're taking the best out of it to optimize loads
mhm,
and uh, and commercial heat treat. So
yeah,
that's been a blast. So now let's talk about customers and market reach because
yeah. I
I
think
I
I would need to add a little bit to the carburizing furnace, because you mentioned that before. There is it is quite something that we still learn about this furnace. No? So we installed this in 2012. We have around 10 to 15 years of experience now with this large furnace, and we really saw that we need to do some improvements. In the last year, we did a complete refurnishing of the furnace. Um, and the main thing that you need to care about is actually maintenance.
yeah, yeah.
So the maintenance, you really need to know how the furnace reacts and how to keep it in a good shape. This is the most important thing, because if you need a new lid for this furnace, for example, this will cost you a couple of $100,000. And having it in a good condition is the one and most important thing that you need to care about when running it. And we still learn about that after some years that we were running it.
How often do you shut down the furnace for maintenance? Once a year?
Uh, no, maybe rather once a week.
Once a
Yeah.
week?
So you may have some processes that go 1.5 weeks, 2 weeks for the carburizing, and after every batch we do a complete check of the furnace.
Oh,
So we open it, we take a look inside, see if there is some obvious damage. We need to check whether the process that was run before was running well, and if not, then we need to, as fast as possible, as soon as possible, we need to see why that happened. And I think this only comes, or this is only possible if you have a very good maintenance team in your company that learns and knows about the furnace, that also knows about thermodynamics, and that knows about how some materials react. And I think the real skill is not to design the process of heat treatment. It's not so much different to smaller furnaces. But the main challenge is to really keep this furnace in a good condition that you can, in the end, produce quality, and you don't have to spend all your money on new spare parts after 1, 2, 3 batches.
and what's the challenge there? I will believe case depth uniformity because it's such a big chamber,
Mhm.
or
So the
distortion, while because of the quench delay of the huge parts,
mhm.
there should be a very big quench delay because
Yeah.
the movement
So
should
so
be kind of slow. So
Yeah, so the temperature uniformity is not so much an issue actually, um, because to achieve temperature uniformity, you just have to wait a little bit longer. You have to have the controls set up properly, but we are talking most of the times about massive parts, or at least very large batches that weigh a lot. And once they are at temperature, they will emit radiation themselves and heat up the walls. So the temperature uniformity will come. Um, but it is more the furnace itself, it's also just built from steel. So with every batch that you run, it is heat treated itself. And for example, you can really see how it grows. We can measure how it grows. So if it's at 900, 1000 degrees Celsius, we can see that it is in some inches larger than it was before. It moves in every direction, and we need to care about it coming back to its original shape every time. And that is a really big challenge. Where we have a lot of stuff installed, a lot of control units installed to check about that, and which was one of the focuses that we had when overhauling it last year.
and you say it's made of steel, but I will assume it has insulation.
It has insulation, yeah, of course, but the inner walls are made of steel, and
They
the lid is made of steel. It does have some, yeah, but there is heat conduction on every steel part,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, it is a little bit more difficult than when we talk about smaller pit furnaces.
right. You have to manage the growth even of the furnace, the
Yeah.
casing. So uh, on applications, because I was told that your customer base, of course, is in Europe, but that they have shipped parts all the way through you from North America, right, to their
Yes.
unique capabilities. Why do companies in North America send parts all the way to Germany for heat treating? I mean, is that such a unique furnace?
So I believe there are two main reasons for that. First of all, the heat treatment company MATLAB that usually or that used to be in Philadelphia has
Right.
closed its doors,
We had a
and it was
podcast with,
one of the very I think you had Mr. Podo
yeah, we had a
as a guest
podcast.
here before, and so that was one of the very few heat treaters that can do such large components in North America. So basically, there's just a vacuum in the market at the moment,
Right.
and the second and I think more important thing is um, the quality is just very good, and we've heard that from the customers. I mean, if you have a big gear and after case hardening, you have to spend maybe days for grinding the teeth
Yeah.
because the distortion has been higher. You pay more money because when you assume large distortion, you might also need a larger CHD. And if we can keep the distortion low and the quality very good, it might actually be cheaper to send the part to Europe and have it case hardened at Rese, and then save a lot of money and time on the grinding afterwards. But I mean, you have to plan that very well. That is part of the truth, because of course the shipping to Europe and shipping back, that will also cost a lot of money, and that will also take some time.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to bring this time with you. The parts that we are usually getting are for projects that are planned long in advance. So we don't get orders from customers who are producing the parts and have to sell it basically the day after.
Right.
And there's a lot of stress and a lot of hurry in their project. Then it doesn't make sense. It's obvious. But if you have a well-planned project and you can take that time to wait 1 or 2 weeks for the transport, then it is probably a good idea to send it to Rese, if then you save a lot of money and time on the grinding.
And what are the industries you are seeing most demand from today? Wind, mining, aerospace, defense.
Yeah.
I could add now with everything that's going on today. So what are especially in Europe, right? You're based in Europe, but what is your feedback on the industry?
So we see a lot of parts coming to us from marine industry.
Right.
We see a lot from mining as well. Although in mining there's a lot going into induction hardening as well at the moment. We see a lot in wind energy. And I think this always used to be the large customer base for these large components. Because, I mean, even in Germany, there's maybe 10 or 15 companies which can produce gears of that size, that it really fills up the large furnace. There's not so many companies, usually you know them. And so basically nobody would start a gearing company and have the biggest machine as their first investment.
And now, if we can switch to European economy and business conditions, North American business condition, it's a big furnace, and I do believe
Yes.
it will require a bunch of energy, gas.
Yes, it's hungry.
And every load, every heat, it takes a blast of energy, a bunch of energy. So energy costs in Europe, are they significantly higher than the America? What are the labor conditions? Because those gears should be loaded by operator with crane, I will assume.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about that the kilowatt was up to 10 euros. We're talking euros, 10 cents in gas. Labor conditions is regulations also by right. We talked about a lot of oil. I know Germany has a lot of restrictions for oil and remains. So can you just guide us a little bit on the European or German conditions to
Yes, of course.
heat treats? And if you
So-
know if there's some difference with North American with the audience, I don't know, you can just
Yeah, of course. So if I need to compare that with America, of course, the energy prices are a lot higher in Germany and Europe in general, and that is a challenge for us. Basically, also because the energy market is so highly regulated, there's a lot of fees and taxes on energy, and to avoid them, you will have to deal with so much bureaucracy. That is really one of the parts that I do not enjoy about the job I'm doing today. But on the other hand, we do have some advantages as well, and that might actually surprise you. But I think the labor market in Germany, or labor in general, how it is organized, is a big advantage for us.
really.
Yes, really. Although some of the things, benefits that come with labor here are expensive, our employees all have 30 days of vacation guaranteed, of paid vacation guaranteed. In plus, you will have something like 10 to 15 public holidays. The work week is limited to around 40 hours. You can't really work more than that. So unlimited sick leave, yeah, stuff that you don't usually have in America, and that costs a lot of money. But on the other hand,
how many shifts do you work?
So we work 3 shifts normally.
3 shifts.
So 24/7, the heat treatment
24/7.
shop is open. Yes. Yeah, but that also, it comes with a price tag. Labor is very expensive. Social security is very expensive, and you need to pay that. But on the other hand, I think the work culture is absolutely awesome here, because normally people that work for your company, they have the training, the apprenticeship made at Reese. So they learn from the very beginning about the heat treatment. And what is very important, people don't switch jobs so often. They usually stay in the company for decades. And I think every heat treater would agree that many aspects of the market and of heat treatment in general, you can't learn from books, but it comes with experience. And so we can really rely on the experience of these operators, yeah, of our staff. And I think it wouldn't be possible to run a company like ours if we wouldn't have access to this very skilled laborers. Yeah. And
awesome.
yeah, and that is the thing that I do not really see in America. People usually switch their jobs much more often, and they don't spend decades at an operating level in a company, in a heat treatment shop. So much more is depending on the management level that usually stays for longer if it's led by the owner. Yeah, but you can't rely on the workers so much, and I think that is one of the biggest advantages that we have, especially in Germany.
Congratulations. I see that
Yeah.
you have very cost-effective furnace. Here you have the demand for the customers, and you have the talent to operate that furnace that is already trained, and also to maintain, right? So, but
Yeah.
we have talked about that big furnace, right? And but your company has way more than that. So I want to switch to the expansion, the innovation. But you also made a very significant investment. I have here the number on a new induction hardening facility opening in 2025 and expanding to Eastern Germany. Why led you to invest heavily in induction technology now? And how do you see gas carburizing versus low pressure carburizing versus induction hardening evolving? Because you talked about you have pit carburizers, you do have vacuum equipment for toolings, and then induction. You're a very flexible and dynamic company. But can you tell us about the market dynamics and the business dynamics of it?
So like I said before, we each location specializes in some things. And so the investment that we made is around 20 million euros. The first part of it being invested in Weimar, which is in Eastern Germany, one of our locations. And the second part of the investment will now be made in Bochum, where we start the construction of the building now. So this will open in 2026. So basically, we don't expect case hardening to grow as much in the upcoming years. And I think that we have now created a lot of capacity in case hardening, and we will be able to handle almost all inquiries that will come in the upcoming years. For induction hardening, basically, we had older machinery, we had older buildings, and we saw that there is a lot of progress in the last couple of years made. And to keep up with this progress, we need to invest. And that was just not possible in the buildings that we had before, in the condition of the machinery we had before. So we said, okay, we need to invest here to continue giving our customer a product that's state of the art, that comes with the latest innovations. And that was basically the reason why we said, okay, a bigger investment has to be made now. And it also means, of course, we need to diversify a little bit. we don't focus only on one procedure, case hardening in that case. We need to also have a foot in the door in some other procedures, and induction hardening, from my point of view, is something that will be growing in the next couple of years because it comes with advantages when you look at, for example, energy usage. So it's very energy efficient, the surface hardening. And one other important thing is I believe that many of the innovations that will happen in heat treatment will start in induction heat treatment in the next years. I think you had a guest 1 or 2 weeks ago that was talking about using AI in heat treatment.
Yes.
And so induction hardening allows you to gather a lot of data that could be a perfect start to use AI. And we should certainly look at that. And to actually be able to use it, you have to gather data at a very high quality, which requires the latest controls and the latest machinery. And that is also one of the main reasons why we're doing this investment.
And when
Yeah.
you when the world speak about Germany, which is a very developed country, a lot of engineering, how important is automation data and AI in modern heat treating? You just mentioned a little bit about AI, but how automated is it's Germany when we talked about commercial heat treat,
Yeah.
loading, checking, racking, right?
Yeah. I think so process control already requires you to have a highly sophisticated system and management of data at every machine and furnace. So I think all of the heat treaters who want to serve some sort of customer, yeah, larger companies that require a high level of quality will also need to invest in controls that gather data and are able to also save data for analysis later on. So I think most heat treaters are at a good level there, but of course you need to have a little bit of a vision. What could you potentially use the data for in the future? And that means you have to focus first of all on gathering that data. And I think there is maybe not everybody is ready for that. It also comes with a price tag. It is expensive, IT structures. I don't think many heat treatment shops have their own IT department. You have to have a certain size to be able to afford something like this. And this will be very important in the future. But when it comes to Germany, I think the quality itself in heat treatment is at a very high level in international comparison. And when I get together with other heat treatment engineers or owners of heat treatment shops, then we talk about many of those topics and we share common interest.
So it's very encouraging that you do mention that the new technology like AI can actually connect with what we're doing, which has been around for many years. Your family company, Reese, has remained family owned since 1948, and now is led by Philip and his brother Julian. And Hitler's been around a while, and AI hasn't been. But seeing the new generations connect both technologies to use it on a specific application, it's a very strong case, and I do believe a success story about how legacy and new generations can keep innovating across generations of leadership. Do you believe this one is one of the strengths of your company?
I think it certainly is. You have to know about that. I'm an engineer. My brother is an engineer. My dad is an engineer. So everybody in the last 3 generations of Reese family who was involved in the business was actually an engineer and also a little bit of a heat treatment nerd. So I think it's one of the most important aspects to management of a family business, that you really care about it, that you're really excited about everything that's happening here. So basically, if we think about the investment we made in the large furnace that was done by my uncle around 15 years ago, we spent almost 25 million euros on that. At the time we did the investment, it was more than the annual turnover of the company. So you can only do something like that and be willing to take the risk if you really believe in heat treatment and you really believe what you're doing is something that will benefit people. And we like to continue like this. So we are actually doing the next big investment now around 10 or 15 years later. And we believe that only if you care about the business, if you are willing to also establish some innovations in the business, this is the only way how this business will be able to sustain another 30 or 40 years, or maybe longer. I hope so.
And a follow-up question regarding that. So,
Mm.
how do you balance tradition in such a, I would say, conservative niche of the industry, which is heat treat? But because customers, when they have a nice part, they say, don't play with it, just stick to it because
Yes.
credibility. And then you want to innovate and
Mhm.
modernize. How do you balance that in your company?
Well, I think that most of the customers are actually happy and encourage you to also do some innovation because, I mean, if you go to a company, you're probably a new customer, you're looking for a heat treater, and there's someone sitting and telling you, hey, I'm doing the same thing like we did 20 years ago. I would personally ask, where's the innovation there? How do I benefit from a partnership with you in the future? And this is something that we need to answer. On the other hand, I think it is very important to keep some traditions within the company. A company is also like a big family. Yeah, people stay together, and there I come back to the work ethics in Germany. Usually, people stay for decades, and you see each other every day. And there is some sort of behavior that the employees will expect from you as an owner, from the company management. How do they react to crisis, for example? I can make an example on that. At Rese, we never laid off a worker since 1948. And this is, for example, something our employees are very proud of. Yeah, and they know they can rely on us. On the other hand, we know we can rely on our employees. And I think tradition is more something that is kept inside the company, and it means some behavior and some way of life is established in the company. Yeah, but from a technical point of view, I think innovation is also some sort of tradition. If customers see that every couple of years you are willing to actually take the next step, yeah, and doesn't mean you have to grow a lot, but it means you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to share innovations that you made in your company. I think this is one of the biggest positive points about a company that you can show to the customer.
Company-wise, technically wise, we have had a great podcast, a great discussion. But
Mm.
I do believe about talent and young leadership. You're pretty young. You're a young leader. I'm saying you're pretty young, and you're a young leader in this industry. Which
Yes.
but in some years that red beard is gonna get white, right? But
Yeah.
I do believe that as an industry, we are losing talent at a much faster pace that we're recruiting it, right?
Mm.
What advice would you give to someone starting out in this industry today? And you just gave us your background that you wanted to be a pilot, and you talk with a lot of passion about it. But then you and I have having the discussion. You're talking with a lot of passion about heat treating,
Mm.
right? So, what would you say to the new generations of engineers that are looking for a job on the aerospace industry, on mining, and they suddenly end up in the heat treatment department of a mining company?
Oh. Well, I think first of all, one of the big issues about that is that many don't know what heat treatment is. That's the first thing why we don't have enough young leaders, and I think you are absolutely right. that many of the older leaders who have a lot of experience are retiring, and we don't have enough young people taking over. I think first of all, the most important advice is don't read the newspaper, especially don't read it in the internet, because whenever there comes a crisis, they will say it's the end of the European industry, it's the end of automotive, it's the end of steelworks. You read a lot of this stuff, which is really discouraging you, and it is important to have a mindset which is a little bit more optimistic. Yeah. I wouldn't work here if I wouldn't believe that heat treatment will have a great future, and that heat treatment products are also needed. I think a lot of younger people don't want to enter an industry that seems kind of old-fashioned, and it is important that as a company and as an industry, we have to kind of present ourselves a little bit more modern. And this is something that I really try. And it's maybe also a difference to the generation before me, where you would go to a customer in suit and tie, and there's just a little bit less stressful atmosphere nowadays. Yeah. And after that, I think it is important for young leaders to be real. Yeah, you have to know what to expect from this industry. I think if you are doing a good job, if you are managing a heat treatment plant well, you can make a good living from that. Yeah, and you have to kind of get the right expectations. Many people who want to be an entrepreneur nowadays want to take over a business. They expect significant growth rates every year, especially when you think about all the digital industries that they have established in the last couple of years. They grow and grow, and after 10 years or so, they want to sell their company for $100 million. This is just not going to happen. So you have to be the person that's right for this industry, be a little bit more humble, have the right expectations. But after all, I think you can be very happy if you work in this great field, and you have to enjoy working with all the great people that work in the industry.
I will agree 100% with you. Right now, as an industry, we do have to present ourselves better, as more modern, because we are. I mean, we're just talking about AI and data gathering and how we can interact on innovation, and we're doing that. But I will say we're not doing. We're not presenting that. We're not reflecting that as an industry. But with leaders like yourself in the industry taking over, I do believe that we as an industry are gonna do much better work. So, Philip, what's a mentor or a book that shaped your thinking that you would recommend to the audience?
So one of the many things that I don't like about myself is that I don't like reading books. Yeah.
Okay.
But I have, of course, something that has really shaped my thinking, and so it's actually a thing that I learned when I went to UVA, University of Virginia, and that is the stakeholder theory. And I think it is something that every manager should probably know about. And basically, it says you really have to think about what people are depending on your business, who do you work with, who has an interest in your business, and your company will perform best if every one of those is happy. Yeah, and stakeholder theory, yes.
Got it.
So it's the employees, it's the customer, it's the owner, it's the shareholder, it's all your all businesses you work with, all partners you work with. If they are all happy, then you're doing well.
And a final question: where do you see the company in 2035?
Well, I actually hope I work with the same team in 10 years. Yeah, I hope that we have different machines, that we have more modern machines, more modern technologies. We have established other procedures. Yeah, but I hope that we are probably close to another big investment project, because I think that's the most fun thing about the job.
Wow. Philip, thanks for sharing this beautiful insight with us. Very educational to learn about the European industry and the German ways. Not so different, but there's uniqueness. but I will switch a little bit to German. Alles
Yeah.
hat ein Ende, or everything has an end, and it's right now the end
Yeah.
of the podcast. Philip, thanks too much for being here, sharing that with us. And
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing, because I do believe that you're in the right path, shaping the industry, innovating in the industry, and I wish you the best. And for the listeners, we're having podcasts with power players like Philip and great companies like Reese in Germany, shaping the heat treat industry. See you next month in the Heat Treat podcast.